All right, here we are.
Hello.
I guess we'll get started, right? 3:18 it is. We're all on stage. I got the little live button down here. Yeah, let's jump into it. So if you're here live, thank you for watching live. I know that we're in the middle of a work day, so I totally get it. And thanks in advance if you're listening to the recording. We have a really cool and interesting mix of people up here, very diverse backgrounds, and I'm excited for all of us to share our stories and advice with everyone who needs it. And I think all four of us will learn from each other on this panel too. So with that said, we'll be using the next 30 minutes just to share more details on our individual paths into RevOps, how we all got into the roles we are in now, and then what we think are the best ways to get into this function, because it is the hot one in SaaS right now. So let's start with introductions. Please everyone share your name, your title, kind of the company where you're at, and what your definition of RevOps is.
I guess I'll jump in first. Hi, everyone. My name is Heather Quitos. I am head of content at Scale Matters. We're a data analytics company that helps early and growth stage companies scale through their data. So my personal definition of RevOps is all of the operational components that really make up revenue generation and retention. I believe it's like the key to unlocking growth and scalability. Companies that really make like a company-wide investment into RevOps, having that RevOps mindset and really looking at RevOps as an unbiased team, you'll be able to attack your go-to-market processes and scale quickly. So it's a little bit about me.
Love it.
All right, I guess I'll jump in next. So, hey everyone, my name is Kevin Lewis, and the company I run is Central Metric. I am Sebastian's boss. Just kidding.
We're co-founders. We're
partners. We're partners.
I'm gonna stick with Kevin's version of this story for the conversation.
Smart man, Jordan. So yes, co-founders with Sebastien for Central Metric for the past 3 years. My title. So yeah, that was my title. That was my name. And then what does RevOps mean to me? So we typically like to define RevOps as just challenges based on your company's most important metrics. When you think about RevOps, it's sales, marketing, success. And what we like to do is build solutions against those challenges to help you achieve whatever it is you're looking to achieve with that most important metric and reporting on it. So what RevOps means to me, it's really just an executive function focused on maximizing revenue as you align sales, marketing, and success together. That's really it.
All right. Very well put. Jordan, you're up.
Fair enough. So I'm Jordan Henderson. Good to meet everybody. I am the Senior Director of Revenue Operations at Ring DNA. And yeah, my simple... I'll give I have a very long definition of RevOps. I have a very simple one. I'll try to use a very simple one.
You didn't get yourself with Wikipedia. No.
If anybody follows me on LinkedIn, I tend to be a bit wordy, so I apologize in advance. But yeah, so it's a simple definition. It's RevOps is using systems, processes, operations, data, and AI-driven insights to align sales, marketing, and customer experience to the buyer's experience. That's my very high level.
That's a good one. Yeah, very succinct. Yeah. All right. And then lastly, my name is Sebastien van Heyningen. I am president and not co-founder, I guess, of Central Metric.
Just got a demotion on this panel.
And my personal definition of RevOps, I'm going to keep it short because I feel like we all said the same thing, but we all said it in a different way. But it's all of the people, all of the process, and all of the technology that is going into revenue for your business. Alrighty, cool. So like I always like to start with the definition of RevOps because, at different orgs, it takes on different definitions. And, Kevin and I have seen this firsthand with our clients. Sometimes RevOps is a list import. Sometimes it's installing lead scoring. Sometimes it's reporting on the SDR's activity. Sometimes it's putting in a whole new CRM. Like it really is whatever your operational needs are in order to get from nobody knows about us to people are paying for our services and renewing at a consistent rate. So the list of tasks like that this function can hold grows with every company that embraces it. And as we've seen over the last couple of years, more and more companies are deciding that RevOps is an important function to them. I think Guy Rubin actually gave a great session on what is RevOps earlier today. So if you do have access to those recordings, definitely a good one to check out. So next question for the group, and feel free to take your time on this because this is going to be, really the bulk of our call here, or our session here. But how did you get into RevOps? Give me your career journey. How did you get from, not knowing what RevOps is or not understanding SaaS or B2B to now being a leader in the RevOps space?
I went last, so I can go first. I also have I said, Kevin, your face as I said that. I was like, all right, thank you for that. Mine's probably the most unique. I don't want to say that. You guys maybe have more unique stories, but I'm a lawyer, actually. I went to law school, practiced law.
Most unique.
Yeah. I'm actually still a licensed attorney, and I practiced law for a few years coming out of law school back in, a long time ago now. That's 10 years ago. I was practicing law in Los Angeles, and I had an opportunity to join a tech company that I really believed in at the time, and I took the lowest paying entry level job at that company from practicing law. Yeah. And it was essentially like a customer success / support sort of role, right? I could not use a Mac at the time. I did not know how to use it. And so which this sounds absurd, right? And so went from like practicing law where I could barely, I could type. That was pretty much it. To working in a tech company. Right? Yeah.
Just putting a date on it.
Yeah, and sort of, honestly, just really leaned into like, getting great at the role that I took right away, and then from there, sort of figuring out, okay, I'm going to lean in. I'm going to learn all technology. I'm going to learn everything about this. I'm going to get great at picking up new technology. I'm going to learn everything about that. And then I'm going to learn how to operationalize my job so that I can be great at it, not just by being good at it, but that I'm operationally sound, because that's how I scale myself, right? And once I sort of did that, then it was, okay, great. Like, how do I scale my team? How do I roll this out? And had the opportunity to then, lead the operations side and manage that team. And then slowly, ultimately at that business over the years, ultimately managed some of the sales team, some of the SDR team, and the operations team, and the customer success team from an operational standpoint. And that kind of was the first iteration of RevOps for me. I was sort of managing a lot of the revenue operation as a whole. And towards the end, we actually brought in a marketing function that reported to me. So all of a sudden I was doing full RevOps for the first time, which this is like 7 or 8 years ago. And have since sort of gone on to be like I've done VP of sales at different companies and VP of sales and operations, that sort of stuff, to now being solely focused purely on the RevOps component of it. Because all of the previous jobs, while I was focused on RevOps function, I was also focused on hitting a bookings number, right? Like managing SDRs to a certain number of qualified opportunities. And those things are very, very important, but slightly separate to purely focusing on revenue operations. So for me, it was just really leaning in and finding every resource imaginable that I could figure out with. Learning how to use a Mac was a really important first step if you're that far, down the ladder. But like simple things like becoming a master at Excel, becoming a master at Salesforce, like learning all of the fundamental things. That way, when you start to do it, and read everything. That was for me how I got into it, I guess.
Wow,
that's awesome.
You're like a founding member of the function, like. Yeah,
it's because it's forever ago. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing I always talk about, though, is that I think we like to act like RevOps is like a new idea, and I don't necessarily think that's true. Like companies have been trying to align their functions forever. They've just been a really bad job of it. And the systems, processes, technology, the AI didn't exist to power a true revenue operation, and because they didn't exist, it didn't make sense for anybody's job to be focused on using those things to power your revenue operation. But those things exist now, and that now we can do it better, right?
Yes. Can I jump in on that, Sebastien?
Yeah, go ahead.
That's a very valid point. That's a very valid point because I started in sales operations. And when I started, you didn't hear about marketing operations. It was always just sales operations. And then we have this marketing team that might send us some leads and a success team that they may save a customer or two, but it was always sales operations. And as you dove more into it, you saw everyone screaming alignment. So what does that alignment look like? And, fast forward 5 years, RevOps. It literally just took one buzzword to have the entire industry think differently. So just process that. It's amazing. So yeah, that's all I want to say.
No, totally. And if I was to say like the thing that was actually most important for me in stepping into RevOps from law, frankly, was learning each role. So I had the time to learn what it meant to be a CSM, and I had the time to learn what it meant to be an SDR, and learn what it meant to be an AE, learn what marketing was interested in, right? Find out what's important to them and actually understand what their job looks like. And in doing so, then now I can speak the language. I understand what's important to them. I understand why they're doing certain things in certain ways. The why is so important in our job. And so if you're just thinking like, oh, I want to get started, I want to be in RevOps, that's great. And you're great at sales ops. That's wonderful. You got to learn some marketing like tomorrow, right? And that's good. Go ask your VP of marketing. Like, hey, like I want to sit down with you for an hour every week. And I want you to explain to me like demand gen. I need to understand it.
Yeah. I love that. Really love that. I can go next.
Yeah, please.
My background isn't as unique and I don't think it's as thought out. It was kind of already predestined that I would end up in this route. So self-taught coder and designer. And then I went to school for computer science, realized I like talking to people more versus coding behind a blank screen. So I switched to business, MIS mainly, which, gives you a little bit of business and tech. And I mean, what do you do as a business major when you graduate? You go into sales or marketing. So I got my first job at Vault. You guys might not have heard of them. They tanked like 2-3 months after I got there. I was
R.I.P. Layer Vault.
So
they needed better ops.
That was literally my first foray into revenue operations. I was hired as their first SDR, mainly because I knew Salesforce. I was using Salesforce for IT consulting in college because, of course, we gotta like pay for the alcohol and the party somehow, right? So I did IT consulting in college. They were using Salesforce. I was like, this looks really cool. So I got really deep into it. And literally every job I got after graduating was because I knew Salesforce. So started as an SDR. That company folded in 2-3 months. But that was good enough experience to jump to the other startups just to start to have that conversation of, I can't be your first SDR. And if I am, what does your process look like? What does your playbook look like? Do you have marketing? Do you have AEs for me to hand this thing to? Are they trained? Do they know what I'm saying? Do I know what they're saying? It makes you start asking these questions. And once I started doing that, and again, plus I knew Salesforce, I started taking on dual roles for one salary in each startup. I was their SDR and their sales operations admin because I asked all the questions. So for every question, my manager would tell me, come back with a report. I'm like, God damn it, I gave myself more work. But I loved that happened because, as you're aware, you really can't run funnel reports without marketing and success being involved in the conversations. Otherwise, you're only looking at something that should be triage. You're looking at one factor, which is just sales, and we know how bad sales admins are. They don't update a thing. So in having to get pushed into a dual role, it forced me to say, okay, on the sales side, I'm not getting supported as much as I think I am by marketing. Let me go have that conversation. And then I wanted to know what happened with the folks I handed off. Let me go chat with the AEs and success. Now, when it came to running reports, everything we were talking about didn't align. So that's when my brain started turning. I'm like, okay, we need alignment. Instead of saying we need alignment, how do we do it? So we started having, at every company I went to, in sales operations, we started having weekly meetings. Myself as the admin with the executives, because the executives, they're thinking sales operations as an admin is just going to fix fields and create reports. No. I need to know what their goals are for the business as it relates to the revenue, because I'm the one that's tracking that number day to day. And if we don't hit it, I have to explain to them why the team didn't hit it. So I literally got into RevOps just by knowing Salesforce from IT and being a computer nerd. And then I tried sales, even though I'm not really a seller. I'd rather build your website or implement Salesforce than try to sell you a solution. I'm not a salesperson. all of those experiences led me to just being in the right rooms, asking the right questions. And then those folks said, hey, you know the tech, you know the data. If you know how to make it, give us the answers we want, do that, and we'll pay you extra. And that was my RevOps experience. And
Love
since
it.
then, yeah.
It's always
I've been
nice
on
when they
to-
give you we'll pay you extra to keep doing this.
Yeah.
Answer to that
And
question,
rare,
right? Like,
very
okay,
rare.
I think I'll do that then. Yeah.
Because eventually the one salary for two dual jobs doesn't become enough, because at that point, if you're working 2 jobs, you're doing 60, 70, 80 hours a week. And that kept going from company to company, where the next company would poach you and they'd promise you a better lifestyle, but then that wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
So did that for a few years.
But you bring up a really good point, right? Which is if you want to do this job, you need to find a place that's actually invested in making this a reality.
Yeah.
Because if they're not, and if you're doing, because I've seen exactly what you're talking about. I've seen companies like, hey, I have an SDR who also does our Salesforce admin. That person is literally sacrificing money in order to do that Salesforce admin work. Because if they spent that time prospecting, they'd get extra leads and extra opportunities, and they'd convert them, and they'd get paid more. So maybe they're hitting their goals, they're hitting them just on, but that's fine. They could be exceeding them and making more money by not doing that work. So they are sacrificing money out of their back pocket to help you out. And that means you're not invested in actually doing this the right way, right?
Jordan, were you shadowing me all these years?
I've been following your career, Kevin. Don't worry about it.
You bring up a valid point, because I never hit quota. I never once hit quota in my entire sales career, but I was always the best sales operations admin. Then I was tapped on the shoulder to become a sales operations manager, and then a sales operations executive. Did that for a consulting agency, then started my own with Sebastien, and here we are. I never once hit quota because of that, and you got it right on the head.
Yeah, and so anybody who's listening, who's my biggest thing is if you're thinking of doing sales ops, RevOps, or want to go that umbrella, you got to make sure they're invested in doing it. Like that from the executive level down. This is a top-down investment, right?
Yep. And we're talking the top 4 individuals, starting with your CEO.
Oh yeah, the CEO has to be absolutely invested in this.
Head of marketing, head of success. Like if those 4 individuals aren't bought in, you're wasting your time. And then
1000%.
what bought in looks like is when they come to ask you questions, they won't ask you questions and interview you solely for your role. They'll ask you, how have you cross-functionally been successful in this role working with the other 2 teams or departments? And on top of that, here are the tools and the tech stack that we have. Which of these do you know how to use? They're going to ask you all the right questions to make sure the foundation they built for you is perfect and that you can come in and hit the ground running, because they care as much about it as you do. If you don't feel that, don't take that job. Don't take that job.
1000%. Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's funny you guys talk about you guys were doing multiple jobs within your job, and that's how you led to RevOps, because I feel like my journey is kind of the same type of way, where my background is fully in marketing. I graduated with a journalism degree. I thought I was going to be a magazine writer in New York. I realized that was not meant for me, and I got into marketing, and I've been in B2B SaaS for 10 plus years now. And the idea of aligning everybody together has always been there. It's just never been called RevOps. And everybody's been doing it as a side job also within their job. And so for me, I worked at a marketing agency for 3 or 4 years, and I've always been part of very small marketing teams. And this agency was also a similar thing. We were all set in very small pods, and then we would, work for our clients. And every time I would create a process, I would be like, who would really this would be great for would be all the other pods on our team, and we should all do the same thing so we can all be successful together. And so my kind of move into RevOps was basically I was doing these processes on my own. I was trying to create stuff that would help automate and be repeatable and scalable for all of our clients, and I just wanted to share that with the rest of my team or the rest of the company. So eventually, having this kind of process driven mindset within, using technology and tools or whatever, are now the CRO at the company at the time was like, hey, we should create a RevOps team. This is something that we need to invest in. And having that investment allowed me to, jump into that team and be part of, training people on the tech stack and user adoption and being an evangelist for all of the partners. All of that came from doing almost extra stuff or stuff that helped my job be successful, and being able to share that with the rest of the company kind of moved me into RevOps. So to your guys' point, there's no there's no linear path to RevOps. We all
No.
kind of like, we're doing it in some way. But then, you know, eventually when you see that there's such a benefit of aligning everybody together and you're all working toward one goal and you're all kind of focused on revenue and not just sales or marketing or customer success, like it just makes sense to have a RevOps team and then put people who are good at operationalizing everything into that team.
Well
totally. And yeah, it's super well said. What you're so I call it the executive mandate, by the way. It's not even like, hey, I'm invested in this. It's a mandate. And I think it's actually an important distinction, because what you just said, Heather, you know, like our CEO was like, hey, I think we should do this. That's a mandate, which means you then have the ability to go to people that have titles like VP of Sales or Chief Marketing Officer and say, hey, we're doing this. Because even though like I'm just a senior director, I have a mandate and we're doing this.
Gotta do it, right?
Yeah, like it's important. We've decided it's important. Yeah.
That's it.
Solid. Yeah. So, I mean, some really great journeys here, and I'll keep mine short. My journey was very similar. You know, I'm a lot less technical than Kevin, and I think that's why he removed my co-founder title. Because I'm the salesperson.
You're not bitter about this at all. Like this is not rubbing you the wrong way at all.
No, not at all. Not at all. Not at all. I'm not
All
petty
jokes.
in any way, shape, or form.
You're still a 50% owner.
but yeah, anyway, so I started as an SDR, actually. That was my first kind of foray into this world. And I was, you know, hitting quota pretty consistently, but I was also that really annoying SDR on my AE calls. Like, hey, the meeting happened 5 hours ago. Why haven't you updated your notes? I need to know if I'm getting commission on this one. I need to know my feedback on all those fields. Like, I need to know what's happening. And, you know, as I kind of moved up within my first job, you know, the double job started to pop up. I was building playbooks. I was, you know, speaking with people that were potentially being hired. I was administrating at the, you know, lowest possible level because I was still, you know, doing 100 cold calls a day. And, you know, I kind of got a little bit stuck there. You know, I wasn't offered that extra compensation. And like Jordan said, I was sacrificing potential leads, potential opportunities to focus on the administration. And the funny part is that I still, despite that, valued the administration and the data and the insights above my own activity and compensation. And so, you know, I hopped around a bit after that. You know, I kind of got trapped in the wanting to be a manager black hole that comes along with every salesperson. And what really kind of made RevOps stick for me as like a concept was I took a job as a first salesperson at a company with, you know, no web presence, no marketing, no client success team, no fully baked operations. You know, I was literally a field sales rep, you know, walking into hotels saying, hey, would you check this out?
This legitimately sounds like you were the only person at the company.
No. And, you know, I will say they're successful since then. Like I did not do well. I did not hit quota at that company. I was eventually, you know, churned, which is the polite way to say fired. But I realized that it wasn't just me. You know, it wasn't like everything be all end all on this one salesperson, this one source of manual activity. You know, there needs to be automation, there needs to be air cover, there needs to be content, there needs to be data enrichment happening automatically, so I'm not spending my 2 hours every morning doing that instead of cold calling. And so when I left that job, you know, I went into, you know, I got very lucky and got into consulting at a mid to large size firm. And Kevin actually was there as well. We were consultants in the same consultancy before we founded our own. And Kevin actually brought it up to me. He was like, every project we take has tech. You know, if they want a playbook, we need to program it into the tech. If they want to hire people, we need to train them on the tech. If they need, you know, some sort of change methodology, that needs to be programmed into Salesforce with the guided paths and the automations that move the data from one object to another upon conversion, you know, to give an example. And so, you know, when Kevin, you know, this is where the co-founder story comes out. When Kevin decided to start Central Metric on his own, it took me a little while to make that connection. And once
you can be honest, you can tell them you thought I was crazy.
I thought he was crazy. You know, we were at a great shop doing great work every day, learning a ton.
6 figures, and, dope job.
And he was like, you know what? No, this isn't it. Like the tech is the focus. And everything comes from the tech. You know, the process acts within the tech. The people are using the tech. And so that's kind of where we started. And so, now we've come full circle. Again, not the most technical person. You can consider me the brand ambassador and then sales lead at Central Metric right now. But, I understand through very personal experience how important it is to have all three of these functions aligned, data flowing between all of them, and, pointing in the same direction. Yeah. So that's my story there. Cool. So yeah, like Heather said earlier, there's no linear path. All you really need, and I think the common thread between the four of us is no matter what function or role we were in, there was a focus on aligning other portions of the business, and also a big interest in the tech and the processes that drive these things. One thing that Jordan mentioned was scaling yourself. Like, I think that's where it starts. It's like, I'm doing this job. How do I make it easier on me? Or how do I make it more efficient for the people I'm reporting to? And then once you kind of processize that, you just move on to the next one, and it spreads like wildfire until you get that executive mandate to really just push it through the entire organization. So yeah, I think this is a great example, and thank you everyone for sharing. We have about 4 minutes left. So I want to pose one more question, because everyone in here is probably trying to get into RevOps, and our stories are helpful, but they're in the past. So today, what does everyone think is the best path, if there is one, to get into RevOps?
Oh,
I can jump in. I mean,
go for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just like hearing your guys' stories. For me, it's just I think you mentioned it, Jordan. If you don't have a RevOps team already in your company, like, go talk to everybody involved. Talk to your sales leader, talk to your marketing leader, talk to the customer success leader, and ask them, like, where can we all bring all of our goals together so that we can all work together cohesively as one team, or as they say, like the revenue engine, how do we keep it running smoothly, right? And if you can be the person that's starting to have those conversations, and you're already like upskilling your own job, you're going to position yourself as somebody that can help all of these teams together and be like the cog and kind of like the central piece to all of these different teams. So that's where I would start. If you don't have a RevOps team, like, talk to all these people, see if you can, you're going to have to do like probably extra work, but see if you can spearhead a couple of projects on your own to, clean up the CRM in some way, or help with lead definitions, or put a data governance system in, whatever that may be. I think that's like really helpful. If you have already experience working with other departments in your company, like, they're going to look at you as kind of the leader in that space. So if you don't have a RevOps team, that would be like my suggestion, because that's kind of what I did. If you do have a RevOps team, obviously talk to your RevOps leader and say, hey, I want in. I want, like, we already bought into this. Like, let me jump in. But I think a lot of companies aren't realizing that RevOps is what it like we've all been talking. It's happened in different companies. It just hasn't been called RevOps. So how can you like link everybody together and be the central pin to all of that? I would just say talk to people and start to, volunteer for yourself. And you may not get it all right from the beginning. Like, we're all still learning about how to do everything in a way that's scalable. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there. And if you do that, I think that would be really helpful for just your professional career in general, and not just getting into RevOps.
Totally.
Yep. And I'll go ahead.
Nope.
I was just going to say, Heather, you kind of said it for all of us. So if I could like summarize it into like the top 3 points. First, be a student. There's a lot of content out there. If you want to learn something, go look it up, read it, make sure you understand it. Second, to Heather's point, see how you can implement it internally. So similar to like myself, Jordan, and Heather, we just asked a bunch of questions to the right people, and we realized, oh crap, this is a needed function. So ask questions internally. You may not, most likely the industry does not have a RevOps team. No one has a RevOps team, but they have the components. Talk to your marketing ops, talk to the person that's managing Salesforce, so all the things for sales if it's not you, and then talk to the person that is the manager for the success operations, who's creating the processes, who's purchasing the tech, who's defining what the tech does. Talk to those people, and with asking the right questions and having those conversations, they're going to see your interest is piqued and then pull you into those more high-level executive conversations to see how you can assist them like myself, and just starting with fields and reports, but eventually extrapolating that experience and those conversations into much larger projects that can help the organization. And the third point.
Perfect timing. Oh no, we got 1
sorry.
point left.
Yeah, I was gonna say the third point, just keep following the first two. Keep learning and then keep asking questions internally because it never ends. So that's it.
The only thing I'm going to add real quick is get Salesforce certified, get HubSpot certified. And if you can't get a job with RevOps title, take a marketing ops job or take a sales ops job and do fucking RevOps. And then show how valuable it is. And then you're going to get an executive mandate. And pretty soon you have a RevOps team.
Yeah. And then it's your team.
And then it's your team, right? But the fundamental thing is keep learning, get Salesforce certified, get HubSpot certified, be great at these things and understand those functions. Take that marketing ops job, take that sales ops job, take that CS ops job. I don't care. Do RevOps in that job and then show how valuable it is. That's how you're going to get this.
Shameless plug. You want to get certified and you want to get that job? We're launching a training program and a boot camp.
Feel free to reach out to us on LinkedIn.
Yep. CRM training and job placement. Call us now. No.
I thought Sebastien was the sales guy, I guess, but I guess this is where we are.
He's taking that job too.
Exactly. I taught him CRMs. He taught me to sell. There we go.
That's true. Yeah.
Co-founders for the win.
Yeah, we're bleeding a little bit over. I don't want to take the next session's time, so let's just say, what's the best way to reach you? Because I'm sure that there will be questions after this panel.
LinkedIn.
Sebastian. Sebastian is the best way to reach me.
That is very true, actually.
Yeah,
So
we're all on LinkedIn, I think.
Sounds like LinkedIn is the best place. We all have our profiles up here on Goldcast, so feel free to connect with us and let's keep the conversation going. Thank you, everyone.
Awesome.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.